Hi everybody, Levi Clay here, and I'm back again for another Rage Time video. Now, it's not often I'm doing news stories on my channel like this. When I want to do things like that, of course, I have a podcast with my buddy Mike called The Guitar Souls. That's the perfect place to talk about something like this, but we're not actually recording for almost a week now, and this story is just so hot that I wanted the opportunity to talk about it now without having Mike kind of calm me down a little bit. I can really rage about this one. So we are talking today about Gibson. Now, Gibson, of course, have had a troubled couple of years, some serious financial problems, being rescued from bankruptcy, etc. But just recently, they actually uploaded a video where they were talking about or issuing an open threat to people that would be infringing on their iconic legacy, as they put it. Now, of course, this video was not well received by the public, so poorly received by the public at large that Gibson removed the video from YouTube. Now, you know that you're getting some sort of backlash and that you're aware of the backlash when you actually remove the video. It's actually quite a hard video to find now. So you would think that maybe Gibson look at this and they've learned their lesson. Well, as reported by guitar.com, it seems no, they haven't learned their lesson. And in fact, they'd already taken action towards legal steps before said video was even released. So it comes out today that Gibson have filed a multi-million-dollar lawsuit against Dean Guitars and their parent company for not just trademark infringement, but trademark counterfeiting, which, as we will get to towards the end of this, is a big difference. Now, I should probably preface this by saying, of course, I am not a lawyer. I cannot give either of these companies legal advice. I can just look at it and give you my opinion on things based on the few legal cases that I have taken an interest on in the past and the lawyers that I follow on YouTube. So I'm really sort of passing on second-hand opinions and knowledge on the way things like this work. So don't take any of this as in stone. This is just kind of what makes sense. So why did Gibson feel that they have a case? Well, of course, Gibson have many iconic guitar designs. The Les Paul is an iconic guitar design. But in this particular instance, we're talking about guitars like the Flying V and the Explorer, which, of course, Dean, for 40 years now, yes, you heard that right, 40 years, have had their own equivalent of the Flying V, which, of course, Dean call the V. They have their own equivalent of the Explorer, which they call the Z. But the issue goes a little bit further than that. Gibson are also taking issue with the dove wing headstock design. I've got those both on screen. They're clearly very different things. And I should say very different. Something only needs to be slightly different for it to be different, right? They are not the same design by any stretch of the imagination. Also for claims of use of the Hummingbird name and also the modern trademark. So yeah, let's follow this one and see how this one pans out. Now, as I pointed out, Dean have been doing this. Dean have been making the Flying V for 40 years, right? 40 years, that's a long time. And Gibson have not done anything about it until now. Now, again, this isn't a legal opinion. I'd be amazed if a judge is going to turn around to a company like Gibson and say, you know what, you're absolutely right. They have infringed upon your trademark. They've been selling these guitars successfully for 40 years, and they owe you money for every single sale that they've ever made, plus interest, because you couldn't have acted on it until now. The notion to me seems utterly ridiculous. I cannot see a judge going through with that one. But, you know, again, what do I know? So at the core of what I'm talking about here, though, that seems to be what Gibson are actually after here. They don't just want compensation. They want it multiplied based on whatever the law will allow them. And you have to take a step back and say, Gibson, come on, guys, come on. All we want you to do as guitar buying members of the public is to make great guitars and sell great guitars. And I know that you struggle with that. I know you struggle to make great guitars. I know you struggle to make things that people want to buy. But when you're in a position where you're struggling to sell guitars, the solution is not to sue other people that are able to sell guitars. Maybe take a step back and ask yourself, why are Dean able to sell guitars and people buy them? Now, this leads us on to the subject of not just trademark infringement, but trademark counterfeiting. The difference between those two is very simple. A trademark infringement would be where you are using the design that someone else has made, but not with malicious intent. You're not trying to pass your product off as the original design. So if I was wearing a t-shirt now that had a tick on it, I wouldn't turn around and try and sell that t-shirt to someone and say that it's a Nike Nike t-shirt, right? It's just a t-shirt with a tick. Now, some people might look at that and say, well, that's very similar to the Nike tick, but it's not quite the same thing. So trademark counterfeiting is where you are trying to use a trademark that belongs to somebody else in order to pass it off as the genuine article and to sell it as the genuine article. Now, this is interesting that Gibson have chosen to do this, of course, because legally speaking, that is a much more serious claim, with much more compensation owed towards Gibson if it's found to be true. Right, so the question I have to ask is, when has anyone ever seen a Dean guitar and thought, that's a great Gibson? It's just never ever happened. Dean have never ever tried to push their guitars as being genuine Gibson products. I'm actually speechless. I've never heard anything so fucking stupid in my entire life. Counterfeiting. You think this is counterfeit? Go after actual counterfeiters, you morons. Go after the sheer amount of companies in China that sell actual counterfeits of your products. Companies that send guitars over to America, over to the UK with your Gibson trademarks on the headstock. They're actually hurting your business. Dean aren't hurting your business. Nobody thinks to themselves, oh, I'm going to go buy myself a Gibson. Actually, you know what? I'm going to go and get myself a Dean. If you've decided that you're going to go and get a Gibson, you go and buy a Gibson. And the evidence for that is simple. The evidence for that is the fact that these Chinese fakes exist. Because when somebody decides they're going to go and buy a Gibson and they can't afford the genuine article, what do? Do they go, I'll just buy something that isn't the thing I want? Or will they buy the fake from China? The fakes from China are causing so much damage to your business. I won't buy a Gibson on the second-hand market now because there are so many fakes that have flooded the market. And to be fair, some of them are rubbish, but some of them are genuinely quite convincing fakes. So why would I ever buy a second-hand Gibson now when there's a risk of me buying something that is worthless? There's the risk of me buying something that is, technically speaking, illegal, contains counterfeited trademarks. You need to be going after those guys, not Dean. Dean aren't really doing anything wrong. I do get the fact that, okay, they happen to have released a guitar that is similar in design to the Flying V. They have happened to release a guitar that is similar in design to the Explorer. Cool. Maybe you should do something about that. 40 fucking years ago. You cannot come out now and all of a sudden go, you know what? We have a problem with this now. Because as far as I'm aware, a huge part of protecting your trademarks is that they have to be defended at all times, right? You can't just ignore people violating your trademarks, sort of cast the net, if you like, throw this out there to let as many people take advantage of your trademarks as you like, and then 40 years later go, we've got them in the net now, guys, let's reel everyone in, because everyone's clearly thought that this was okay, and we even gave the impression that it was okay, but now they're caught in our nets, and we're going to take them for millions and millions and millions of dollars. You greedy, idiotic buffoons. I was so happy when your company didn't go bankrupt because you have an iconic legacy. But it seems that it doesn't matter who is at the top. The company stinks. And there's no real way to fix this, is there now? So that's me. That's me absolutely done. My support of Gibson right out the fucking window. Will not be purchasing any more Gibson. I actually was considering adding a new SG to my collection, but Gibson, nah. Never again, guys. And it's not because Dean make better guitars. Again, I don't own any Dean guitars. I have no intention of going and buying any Dean guitars. I'm not going to go and do that because I don't think that Dean's a substitute for Gibsons, because I'm not an idiot like you. Ugh. So, what do you guys think? I'm genuinely very interested in your comments on this one. Hit me up in that comment section below, reading your criticisms and comments, and I will, of course, be responding to it. And lastly, I just want to say a huge thanks to these people over here, some of my supporters over on patreon.com. They allow me to keep doing videos like this. It's midday, right? And I'm sat at home working on projects, on things, and I can make YouTube videos like this because the money that the Patreon brings in allows me to consider this work, right? This is work, entertaining people and reaching out out to the wider community. So thank you so much for your support, guys. It is more of a help than you could ever know. And yeah, if you would like to check me out on Patreon, you can do so by clicking this button up here. There it is. You can subscribe by clicking this button down here, and you'll find 2 more of my videos here and here. And I'm really serious about that one, guys. If you have any comments on this, let me know in that comment section. I love reading your comments. I love getting back to you. I love getting into the banter with you guys. And it's really the best way for us to learn what people are thinking, is to talk to each other and listen to each other and share our ideas. So much love, and I will see you for another video soon. Oh, also, Gibson, you suck.